Hey, so how's it going, guys? This is Ryo Murata, photographer based in Tokyo. So in my previous video, I kind of mentioned lightly about talking about the Lois 360 system actually. And in that video, I kind of lightly mentioned that because I do not have a copy stand, I should be looking for one. And in this video, I actually was able to grab or find a copy stand. For your information, I thought it'd be nice to sort of like mention it on my channel. I think in my previous video, in which I talked about the Lois 360 system, I said that one of the main distributors in Japan is called Marix, and for people who do not know, Marix is sort of like a third-party respool company that makes film stocks, actually, sort of like a rebranded knockoffs, unfortunately, such as Cineso 800T. They have something called Marix 800T, which I actually shot in one of my videos. They also sell and distribute sort of like accessories related to film photography, such as Valois sort of like 360 systems. When I last checked, they weren't in stock, but now apparently they have some in stock. But in my case, I sort of like got it from the mainland Finland shop, the camera store, which I talked briefly on. In addition to that system, one essential equipment for mirrorless scanning or digital scanning is you need a copy stand if you're basically shooting it from a vertical straight up from to down. Actually, Marix actually sells a copy stand. I think it might be a rebranded, but it's called the MCXPro copy stand, which I was able to like grab for 17,000 yen. That's like $130-$140. It was quite pricey in a sense, but once I got it, I realized the build quality is like fully aluminum, so it's not, there's like no plastic involved in this copy stand. And I thought it'd be nice to sort of like talk about the characteristics of the simple functionalities of copy stand and just share that information for you guys. And I guess the official name is called MCXPro copy stand. The size wise, it's like 28 centimeters by 32 centimeters. In terms of height, it goes up to 55 centimeters. And there's this, basically every single copy stand has a rail, kind of a base rail actually, which extends upwards. This one in particular extends to like 55 centimeters. And if I'm right, if you use a hex wrench, you can basically take out down the bolts and you can basically extend it further. For this video, I did not do it, but you can actually do that. And this one in particular weighs roughly 5 kilograms, and it's quite hefty in terms of like weight wise. It's fully made out of aluminum, if I'm right. But when I got mine, it was like a little bit done to scratch, which was a shocker. But I mean, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for functionality wise. And most what you call of these copy stands has this sort of like central column or base, a rail that we'll like to call it, where you can basically mount your camera onto it. This one in particular uses ARCA Swiss, and I think most or a majority of these types of copy stands use ARCA Swiss base plates or tripod plates actually. And because I use cameras and also my tripods use ARCA Swiss, I have like no issues. You can basically sort of like unscrew the knob actually, and you can basically place the camera horizontally facing or vertically facing down onto the copy stand without any like trouble. And I'm going a little bit off topic, but this base rail itself, there's an ARCA Swiss sort of like, how should I say, base plate, which is also mounted to another ARCA Swiss, which attaches to the camera. So change the front facing ARCA Swiss plate to a more user-friendly, let's say a quick release plate, because those are much easier to mount on actually. But this one, the default setup comes with a typical knob type of ARCA Swiss. So if you have the money, if you have the fun, I would highly suggest like switching it to a sort of like a ARCA Swiss that's sort of like quick release compatible. If you trek a lot, if you hike a lot, you probably have some kind of ARCA Swiss quick release type of system, something like Peak Design, or I use PGY Tech, but those are available, but those are quite pricey, so I can't afford it right now. So yeah. And also, I guess that is much more favored if you frequently take off your camera from the copy stand, off from their base plate, and then if you want to mount it on, if you want to take it down, if you do that frequently, maybe the quick release plate system might be much better in that sense. I went a little bit off topic. And honestly, there's not much to talk about copy stands because once you mount your camera and you basically have your sort of like system already set up, you basically may have to take a photo or maybe have to view it through the viewfinder to see if you're too far off or too high or too low. You had to basically have to like move the camera upwards or downwards. You had to do a little bit of precision adjustments to make it happen. And one, I guess, important factor for doing mirrorless scan after like setting it up is that it's best to have a camera that has a flip out sort of like LCD screen so you can know what you're basically shooting, if the whole frame, the whole sensor is accommodating that whole like film negative or not. There are some cameras or some older DSLRs, if you use DSLRs, that do not have flip out screens. Let's say something like a Canon 7D series, the first iteration, the screen itself is already stuck towards the back panel and you can't move it. The newer cameras and mirrorless cameras tend to have a flip out screen, some kind of flip out. It could be a tilty screen, or such as the X-T5 that I currently use, or a flip out screen that I use when shooting my video. Actually, my X-T4 is a flip out screen. So I think that is something you need to take into account when doing mirrorless scanning. And in my case, I'll be using my X-T5, which has roughly 40 megapixels to sort of like scan my sort of like film negatives, which is like a medium format 6x9. And 40 megapixels is actually more than enough. A famous YouTuber called Kyle McDougall already made a video of doing mirrorless scanning using 16 megapixel micro four thirds Olympus camera, which is more than enough. If you're going to be like printing really gigantic, I guess, prints, you could always use pixel shift, and depending on the newer cameras which have it, the X-T5 from Fujifilm can go up to 160 megapixels if you need it by stitching it like 20 photos or so, but you have to do it in the software. I'm going a little bit off topic, but options are available. But yeah, in most cases, if you have 15 to 20 megapixels, that's more than enough for mirrorless scanning. The last thing that I should mention about the characteristics of the Marix stand in particular is that it might be the location where I have it. I basically have it above, on top of my camera cabinet, which the surface is really metalish, slippery. The Marix, what I call Copystand, keeps on slipping, so I need to like fix that actually. You really want a really stable surface to like do the mirror scanning, because if it keeps on like moving, it's gonna be really stressful. So I will have to like find something to make maybe some kind of like anti-slip mat or something to put in between my camera cabinet and the copy stand itself to prevent it from sliding. So that's actually one area to note. Okay, so I was about to end this video, but I completely forgot to mention the sort of like the system. I mentioned that I use my X-T5 to capture images. Well, what lens am I going to be using? I will be using the 60mm f2.8 lens by 7 Artisans. I sometimes like to mention it on my channel, but I should dedicate a video on this lens in terms of topic-wise, because it's a really super flexible lens, fully manual, which is a fully macro lens, which you can use it for film scanning and also for 95% of my sort of like photography related to shooting thumbnails. Actually, that's basically the lens that I use, and I have it at all times when I'm probably like scanning or shooting my thumbnails from my YouTube channel actually. And what's really important about macro lenses when doing mirrorless scanning is that you want a macro lens that has a 1:1 reproduction ratio. And there are like macro lenses, especially some Zeiss lenses out there. I use Nikon system, some of their, I think, Planner series. Although they say they are macro lenses, some lenses only have 1:2 reproduction, which is like half size actually, which are not truly macro lenses. And what's super important about 1:1 reproduction rate on macro lenses when doing like maybe film scanning or maybe shooting like macro shots is what you see is what you will get within the camera sensor, meaning that if it's 1:1, so let's say you're shooting something like 10 millimeters, sort of like a product photography or some kind of like miniature like object, that exact size will be reproduced or captured within the sensor of the camera, which means that you will be capturing the best quality image of that specific like subject. So if it's 1:5, or maybe half, like some of the Zeiss lenses is 1:2, sorry, like 50% reproduction rate, it means that if it's like, I guess, 10mm product, when you capture it within the camera sensor, it's going to be like less or more, maybe. It's the other way around. So it's gonna capture less details, so you won't get that much of a super sharp image. So that's why a lot of people tend to like favor 1:1 macro lenses, because those are they can capture much more details and resolution at the same time. So yeah, I kept going off topic. Yeah, that's basically it on my sort of like blabbering just about what my sort of like copy stand that I recently got from Marix, actually. And honestly, copy stands, it could be like any kind of manufacturer, but if you pay too less, the what you call the quality control and I guess the material will be like, in some cases there's like plastic ones, which I highly do not recommend. So if you're going by long shot in terms of investment wise, I think it's highly recommended to get something really sturdy and stable at the same time. If you, I guess, if you cheap out, there's a chance that it won't lay flat. So that's like one area to mention. So that's basically it. Just talking about getting my sort of like copy stand from Marix. If you have any questions or if you have any inquiries, I'm happy to reply. I'm kind of curious if you do any kind of mirrorless scanning. What's the copy stand of choice? What do you guys use? I would love to hear from you guys. And yeah, that's basically it on my blabbering about copy stands. Hopefully this video is not too long, but yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace out.